I'm Becky Lyons. Welcome to Jesus Speaks in the Book of Mormon and in Dreams. So today we are reading from Mosiah 21 in the Book of Mormon. So we'll go ahead and start right now. Chapter 21. The people of Limhi. Limhi's people are smitten and defeated by the Lamanites. Limhi's people meet Ammon and are converted. They tell Ammon of the 24 Jaredite plates, about 122 to 122 BC. It came to pass that Limhi and his people returned to the city of Nephi and began to dwell in the land again in peace. And it came to pass that after many days the Lamanites began again to be stirred up in anger against the Nephites. And they began to come into the borders of the land round about. So it's only been about 1 year right here since our last chapter. It ended at 123 BC and now we're at 122 BC. So that whole peaceful exchange and the Lamanite king pleading for Limhi's people, to his own people, to preserve the people of Limhi. So I hope it didn't even last that long. It lasted about a year, and they did not dare slay them because of the oath which the king had made unto Limhi. But they would smite them on their cheeks and exercise authority over them and begin to put heavy burdens upon their backs and drive them as they would as a dumb ass. So they didn't necessarily, like, the Lamanites didn't kill them or hurt them, but they just really bugged them. They would be mean to them. They would hit them. They would put really hard things and burdens upon them. They would smite them. They would hit them on their cheeks, hit them on the face. They weren't killing them, but technically they weren't breaking the oath of the covenant that the Lamanite king and King Limhi had made. But all this was done that the word of the Lord might be fulfilled. And now the afflictions of the Nephites were great, and there was no way that they could deliver themselves out of their hands, for the Lamanites had surrounded them on every side. And it came to pass that the people began to murmur with the king because of all their afflictions and trials. They began to be desirous to go against them to battle, and they did afflict the king sorely with their complaints. Therefore the king granted unto them that they should do according to their desires. And then they gathered themselves together again, and put on their armor, and went forth against the Lamanites, to drive them out of their land. And it came to pass that the Lamanites did beat them, and drove them back, and slew many of them. And now there was a great mourning and lamentation among all the people of Limhi, the widows mourning for their husbands, and the sons and daughters mourning for their fathers, and the brothers mourning for their brethren. So the people, they had just had enough. King Limhi's people are basically being abused and tormented by the Lamanites. They're getting so Limhi's people come to King Limhi and they just say, like, we have had enough. We can't take this anymore. We're so sick of this. We just want to go to battle. We want to go to battle against the Lamanites. And it just says they did afflict the king sorely with their complaints. So the king was like, basically, okay, you go ahead, whatever's your desire, you go ahead and do it then. Do what you want to do. And so they gathered themselves together to go to battle. They put on their armor. Then they went to battle against the Lamanites to fight back. And the Lamanites were, once again, they were tormenting them and beating them and abusing them and driving them back. And they killed many of them when they went to battle. It says that the people, they were so sad, and the widows were mourning for their husbands, and the sons and the daughters were mourning for their fathers, and the brothers were mourning for their brethren. So this is all prophesied from Abinadi. Now, there were a great many widows in the land, and they did cry mightily from day to day, for a great fear of the Lamanites did come upon them. So all of these widows, all these people, all these women whose their husbands had died were terrified because they didn't feel like they had any protection now that their husbands died and were killed. So they had continual cries that did stir up the remainder of the people of Limhi to anger. And it came to pass that their continual cries did stir up the remainder of the people of Limhi to anger against the Lamanites. And they went to battle, but they were driven back again, suffering much loss. So this is so hard. They're in this really heartbreaking cycle where they're first getting tormented by the Lamanites, and then they wanted to go to battle, and they battled the Lamanites. The Lamanites killed a bunch of them, and they were so sad, and they're so mournful. And then the continual cries of everybody was so sad, and it made people in Limhi's group want to go and fight again. and wanted to fight back again to fight more Lamanites, and more people were killed again. So it was this vicious cycle, right? So they went again, even the third time, and they suffered in the like manner. And those that were not slain and killed returned again to the city of Nephi, and they did humble themselves even to the dust, subjecting themselves to the yoke of bondage, submitting themselves to be smitten and to be driven to and fro, and to be burdened according to the desires of their enemies. And they did humble themselves even in the depths of humility, and they did cry mightily to God, yea, even all the day long did they cry unto their God that he would deliver them out of their afflictions. So they became a humble people. They were put down to dirt, to nothing. They lost so many of their family members and their friends, and they finally humbled themselves to the depths of humility. They humbled themselves to the dust and cried mightily to God all day long that God would deliver them. And now the Lord was slow to hear their cries because of their sins and iniquities. Nevertheless, the Lord did hear their cries, and he began to soften the hearts of the Lamanites, so they began to ease the burdens, yet the Lord did not see fit to deliver them out of bondage. I like that they say it that way, that the Lord did not see fit yet to deliver them out of bondage yet. It's not saying that the Lord ignored them, but they weren't ready to be delivered out of bondage yet. He left them to suffer more due to their own choices and their own consequences. It's what's happening to them. But the Lord knows the best plan for them. He knows his plan is perfect for his children. He did not see fit at that point to deliver them out of bondage. Yet it came to pass that they began to prosper by degrees in the land, and they began to raise grain more abundantly, and flocks and herds, that they did not suffer with hunger. Now there was a great number of women, more than there was of men. Therefore King Limhi commanded that every man should impart to the support of the widows and their children, that they might not perish and die with hunger. And this they did because of the greatness of their number that had been slain and killed. So King Limhi asked all of the men that were left to go ahead and help all of these widows and children that didn't have husbands and fathers anymore. And so this was a very, very Zion-like community and Zion-minded people. So the people of Limhi kept together in a body as much as it was possible, and secured their grain and secured their flocks. And the king himself did not trust his person without the walls of the city, unless he took his guards with him, fearing that he might by some means fall into the hands of the Lamanites. And he caused that his people should watch the land round about, that by some means they might take those priests that fled. So we're going to stop right here, and I'll see you in part 2.